In the entire history of film scores, there are few, if any, moments that deliver the emotional gut punch that this theme does. It was written by none other than John Williams, and it is perhaps his greatest ending ever. Let's take a look. Oh man. So we can already hear the theme
without saying goodbye, did you?
start to develop underneath.
This is for you.
And then we hear our first three notes of that melody that we know so well from the ending of The Sorcerer's Stone. And it's when Hagrid pulls the book that he's giving to Harry out of his pocket. And it's just the perfect timing for this theme to enter at that moment. And then we hear it develop. Ah! Oh, that chord right there. This is just an absolutely iconic theme by John Williams, and it utilizes so many of the devices that John Williams is well known for. And among those is the same melody with a different set of chord changes depending on how we're using it. And you'll see exactly what I mean in a second. Let's take a listen to the beginning of this theme. Wow. So we're in the key of A major. This chord right here. Now, I gotta listen close to find out if those are the notes that we actually are hearing. But what's basically happening there is we're taking this A major figure and we're collapsing it on itself, switching it to diminished for just a moment. And when we do that, our melody note gives us a diminished major seventh chord, okay? So we have, and we just sit on that for a moment. And so it does sound like that F sharp is in there, creating the fully diminished A chord, right? Still with the addition of that melody note. Oh, this is just a beautiful crunch here, right? Because we have this nice, pretty sound. Our melody is very simply just 1, 2, 3 of an A major scale, right? Yeah. And then it sounds like it just kind of goes right back to the A major seventh sound there. Now, the Celeste playing there, that is such a nice touch, especially as we see what Harry's looking at here. And it's a baby picture, right? And so that sound, that Celeste sound, is kind of has this synonymous childlike wonder type of sound, which is, we hear this a lot used in the scores to the Harry Potter films. And that's because it matches exactly what the essence of these films are, which is this childlike wonder, right? It's magic, literal magic, right? And so we hear that. Ooh, listen to the strings there. You're gonna hear a lot of this used throughout this theme, and that is the Lydian mode, right? We have our 1, 2, 3, sharp 4. We have the C sharp chord here, which is sort of setting up the next phrase. Ah.
Thanks, Hagrid.
This is such a great moment here, because now we have a plucked bass note, but it's not the root. It's not the root of the chord, right? We don't hear that. Instead, we hear the third underneath. And now we've traded, this is what I was talking about before. We've now traded that diminished chord for our 4 chord. Same exact melody, same exact phrase, but instead we want to get rid of that dissonance and instead replace it with that, a D major chord with our melody note that turns it into a Lydian mode, right? Absolutely beautiful. There's our bass note,
Thanks,
C
Hagrid.
sharp, up to a D for that D major chord. Now the starting to develop a little bit.
Oh, now listen, Harry. If that dolt of a cousin of yours, Dudley, gives you any grief, you could always, threaten him.
Again, with the bell, I'm not sure what that is, if that's like a glockenspiel or something like that, but just, it fits perfectly for what we're seeing and what we're saying right now.
It's a nice pair of ears to go with that tail of his.
But, Hagrid, we're not allowed to do magic.
We're building up, we're getting ready,
You know that.
I do.
and there's our main
Cousin
theme.
don't, do he? Hey?
Right, we slid our theme in there,
Feels strange to be going home, doesn't it?
I'm not going home.
and then here we start to build, here we start to build. And then back into that melody. Okay, so here as well, we have our A major chord over the third. So we haven't given ourselves this big, powerful root position chord yet. We're still letting it kind of simmer, unresolved, right? Because yes, it is the one chord, it is the root. However, it's not placed over its own root. It's instead placed over its third, which kind of gives it this little bit of like suspended, like we're not quite finished yet. And that's what we hear. We can hear that in there. And we can see what our root is doing. It's kind of moving downward continuously because we're getting ready to deliver on that ending where we actually allow it to now utilize the root. We allow it to utilize that strong grounded place. 4, climbing around. It's like 4, 5, 4, 5. Well, between here, we're just building up this resolution. Man, unbelievable, right? And that is such a powerful resolution. Let's check it out again here. And there, when we get that one last call to the theme, we're creating that Lydian mode again. And we're gonna end the whole thing right on our Lydian mode. But you'll notice even as we release back into that main melody for the final time, we're still over the root. Now, of course, it feels more resolved this time because we've now taken the time to build up and build up throughout these chord changes, basically going from 4, 5, 4, 5. And the only time we finally get that resolution to our root position A chord is when we get that callback to, I believe it's Hedwig's theme, right? Pretty sure, right? And so I'm fuzzy on what one that actually is. It might be Hedwig's theme, but correct me in the comments. I don't know. That's the only time we actually get that final resolution with our root in the actual bass. So the theme itself is absolutely brilliantly written, as one would expect. But I think what truly makes this moment one of the most impactful in all of film score history is its usage 10 years later. Now, of course, the theme was by John Williams, but the decision to use it in this context was the work of Alexandre Desplat, who did the score for the final film. And what a decision it was. Just check out how this is utilized in exactly the same ways, but with 10 years of history now added to the emotional gut punch that this scene is. So we hear, there's our intro. And now the entrance of that first iteration of the melody. And there's our Celeste, that childlike wonder as we finally reveal together 19 years later. And we're starting to get that hint, that swell of triumph there as we see the Hogwarts Express for the first time. Now we've extended it a little bit here. Oh wait, that's Hedwig's theme, isn't it? I think this is Hedwig's theme. Wow, I just noticed that. There's a white bird. I mean, it's paper and it's magic, right? But right when we hear Hedwig's theme, we see a white bird flying around. Didn't notice that before.
Back? Yeah.
Okay, so this is where Alexandre Desplat had to sort of extend it a little bit to fit the scene. So what better way to do that than bring one of the themes, one of the main themes of the entire film series back, right? And so where do we meet back up with our Leaving Hogwarts theme?
Severus Potter.
So same thing as we actually we're
Named
kind of
after
looking
two
at
headmasters
his
of
face
Hogwarts.
again, and we're
One of
hearing
them was a
that sort of
Slytherin.
childlike theme.
And he was the bravest man I've ever known. It's
There's
your choice,
okay, so we're utilizing the original here. This is the same as the first film. Okay, now we're starting to get our swell.
Ready?
Perfect timing. There's our theme. And as the train starts to leave, we now hear the build-up of this original theme. It's the exact same thing as the first film, except instead of leaving Hogwarts, we're now going to it. Wide shot? Oh, yeah, right. Come on. Unbelievable. What a decision to utilize that exact theme for the last thing that we hear in the entire series. I mean, it's just brilliant. John Williams has written themes that have a lot more like harmonic complexities to them and maybe even more interesting melodies and such. But sometimes it's not about the complexity, it's about how perfectly the melody and the harmony aids in telling the story of the film. And I think this is one of John Williams' greatest works because it just so perfectly encapsulates the combination of triumph as well as like that childhood wonder of the magical world that this is. And for Alexandre Desplat to make that decision to bring it back for the last part of the final film, I mean, you could not write a better ending. And especially one that took 10 years to come to fruition. I mean, talk about a resolution that just leaves you feeling like everything is complete. It makes great usage of simple harmony and the Lydian mode to give it that sense of wonder. I can't think of any way that this could have been done any better. But as always, I want to know your thoughts in the comments down below, so be sure to let me know what you think of this particular score from John Williams, how Alexandre Desplat used it in the final film, and what other endings you think are particularly great, especially after a series of films. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video.